Let's cross to Canberra now and catch up with the National Senate Leader Bridget McKenzie. Thanks for joining us, Bridget. Of course, Parliament was sitting today primarily to have condolence speeches about the Queen. Australia's mourning goes on into a second fortnight. I just want to show you what Anthony Albanese said, because it's kind of disturbing. He again seems to be encouraging our new head of state to get involved in climate politics. Have a look.
I admire King Charles's passion and his commitment to the natural environment and sustainability. At the dawn of his reign, we wish His Majesty well.
The Prime Minister there, Bridget McKenzie, this is the problem, isn't it? He keeps urging this king to get involved in what's been the most divisive political issue in this country for a couple of decades.
Yeah, Chris, I think one of the great things about our parliamentary democracy and our constitutional arrangements is that our head of state stays above politics. And given how divisive that issue has been in this country in the past, and the example set by our late Queen in staying out of local domestic politics, I'm not sure what messages the Prime Minister is trying to send King Charles III, but you're right, we had our National Memorial Day service yesterday, and today we had over 110 parliamentarians of all sides of politics contributing to a condolence motion, and we'll all be getting back to business as usual, punching on come Monday when we all head back here for sitting week.
Well, when we talk about this climate issue, which of course is still a live one in this country, you would have heard those comments from the young campaigner, the nuclear influencer, as she styles herself, Isabel Bernanke. It's a very persuasive case, isn't it? I know you've been strong on nuclear, and we've got to hear more of that sensible, technology-based approach.
Absolutely, Chris. And I mean, I know you've been doing your best, as I have in my place, to influence the hearts and minds of Australians around the benefits of a zero-emission, reliable energy source such as nuclear here in Australia. So I'm very buoyed and excited that someone that used to belong to Extinction Rebellion is now actually looking objectively at an energy source that can assist with a zero emissions future, but importantly can assist, as she said, 700 million humans on our planet who are yet to avail themselves of the benefits that electricity can provide, mainly lifting yourselves out of poverty. So I think it's an extremely exciting proposition, and all strength to her arm. I think we need all the help we can get, but at least we're starting to have the conversation, which we need to get on with, because it's the International Energy Agency says we cannot get to the emission reduction targets we need to globally without things like nuclear energy and carbon capture and storage.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that is the encouraging thing. The debate is shifting right around the world. 2 years ago, you weren't even allowed to talk about this. Now, at least people are being sensible about it. Let's get to the economy. It's been quite a momentous week in many ways, because the Treasurer, Jim Chalmers, kicked it off early in the week, announcing that the budget's going to be $50 billion to the good of where it was positioned. Still deep in deficit, but instead of an $80 billion deficit, a $30 billion deficit. Here's what he had to say. He didn't seem too happy about it, though.
The budget deficit for 21-22 will show an improvement of almost $50 billion from what was expected at budget time. This substantial improvement is welcome, but the bulk of it is driven by temporary factors.
Bridget, why is he not happy about it? Because he wants to continue to blame all his woes on the previous government?
Yeah, I think it's, you've got to take the windfall gain where you can get them. And a treasurer with $50 billion in his back pocket that he didn't think he'd have last week should be a very, very happy man. Truth is, he inherited an economy with very, very sound foundations, and thanks to, some great prices for our iron ore, our coal and our gas in the main, we've been able to see $50 billion improvement in our budget bottom line, which is actually good news, particularly as we see those global factors, not just the war in Ukraine, but rising inflation rates in the US playing potential havoc on our domestic economy here at home. So he's got the foundation right, and we head into the budget considerations in the next couple of weeks. And, there's growing alarm about where this Labor government is going to make its cuts. They've flagged infrastructure, my own area of responsibility, and also regional programs as areas they're going to look at cutting. And if you're looking at where a government should be spending money at times like this, it is in projects and programs that build productive capacity and economic resilience, where you should be continuing to invest, not cutting them.
Well, the only way out of a debt hole is to grow the economy. I mean, that's been demonstrated time and time again. Yet we have a lot of commentators and economists suggesting the government needs to increase taxation, at least to pay for its recurrent expenditure. Surely that's only going to stifle growth. They need to keep taxes as low as possible and presumably try and cut some recurrent expenditure. Is there any recurrent expenditure that the coalition would point to and suggest should be trimmed?
Well, we think we left the economy in really sound shape given the COVID-19 restrictions that we saw, particularly on small to medium businesses over that 2-year period. And then thanks to the commodity prices being what they are, this government is getting windfall gains. Now, there's two things that are going to actually assist Australians deal with the cost of living pressures. A government that prudently looks at its spending regime and continues to invest in those projects and programs that build capacity within the economy and pare back on those measures that don't, and an independent Reserve Bank that obviously is lifting the cash rate to a point where those are in balance. You don't want one going too hard and a government taking its foot off the pedal either. So I think they've got a delicate decisions to make, but my strong advice to the Treasurer and his Minister for Infrastructure is to not cut funding to critical projects and programs, particularly for those in rural and regional Australia.
Senator, you're off to Melbourne tonight. Are you at the grand final tomorrow?
Absolutely. I've got a 31-year-old who's never seen his Cats win. So
don't tell me. You're on the Cats bandwagon, are you?
Well, I'm a St Kilda supporter, Chris, so I'm yet to see a grand final win in my 52 years. So I always have a September team. Well,
keep an eye out. All right. Well, I'm going for the Swannies, and at the Saints, you can keep an eye out for Oscar Adams. I'll talk to you about that off air sometime. Thanks for joining us. That's the Nationals Senate Leader, Bridget McKenzie.